Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Flexible and Fast, Exploring the Benefits of Modular Cleanrooms. I'm Heather Masaccio, your host from Pharmaceutical Online and Life Science Connect. With me today, I have Stephen Ondek, Commercial Director of Facilities at Germfree. In this webinar, Stephen will be offering insights into the fundamental differences between traditional and modular cleanrooms and explore how modular designs can be customized and expanded to meet changing industry needs. After their presentation, we'll be holding a live Q&A session. Feel free to submit questions as we go along. We'll get to as many as possible during the event, and any that we can't get to, we will follow up with later. Now, if you run into any issues, please try refreshing your browser first. And if you need additional support, go ahead and submit a question via the Q&A, and I'll get you back on track. Finally, the webinar will be available for on-demand viewing. You'll receive a link via email as soon as it's available. With all that said, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to get us started.
Hello, everybody. Stephen Ondek with Germfree Laboratories. Very excited to be here today. Excited to give you a very nice overview of modular offerings, how they're flexible, how they're fast, and how they can benefit you and your science. So a little bit about my background. That's kind of weird talking about myself, but I am Stephen Ondek, so I have about 13 years in life science. Actually, cut my teeth in the life science industry with Medisca. It's a compounding supplier, so was working with 503As, 503Bs, saw the birth of 797, 800, and the challenges that those customers faced with finding cleanroom space, offering them support from how to compound, APIs, training support. We offered a lot of services for compounders across the globe, actually. Then I actually moved over to Thermo Fisher Scientific. I worked in their microbiology division for almost 4 years. Worked mainly on the cGMP applications, servicing mainly the pharmacy and pharma industries. During that time, worked with large pharma, Merck, Pfizer, GSK, and small, more mom and pops as well during my time there. After that, I actually moved in with a company called Marken. Marken actually is a supply chain specialist that actually manufactures and does do a lot of the cell and gene therapy logistics as well. So they're doing kitting, they're doing cell banking, they're actually moving the samples and finished products from point A to point B. Now I actually find myself here with Germfree. Germfree, I've actually been with them for about 1.5 years now. It's been a great experience. We're going to learn a little bit more about Germfree today, so I won't tell you too much to kick things off. But now on the personal side, wife and 2 boys. My house is chaos on the daily basis. I'm an avid outdoorsman, hunting, fishing, fly fishing. I try to get outdoors. It's kind of where I find my reprieve from work and life in general. And then I also am involved with the Game Changers Foundation. I'm a board member and a coach as well. And what that means as a coach is working with athletes, helping them develop into how to get into college sports, how to be a better person in life in general, what their goals are, how to achieve those goals, and really giving them a plan as they move from young men and women into adulthood. So something very passionate about and very, very involved with that program as well. So to give you an idea of today's agenda, kind of what we're going to be covering, so we're going to do a general overview of Germfree, who we are, what we do, what we specialize in, and then we're going to dive into understanding cleanrooms. What are they? What markets do we hit with cleanrooms? What do they mean? We actually have a general a definition of cleanroom as well that we'll be presenting. So modular cleanrooms, an overview of modular and what that means for cleanrooms and what that approach is. Benefits of modular cleanrooms. We're going to give some real world examples, some projects that we've personally worked on here at Germfree, and then implementation and considerations. And then we're going to have a live Q&A as well to wrap things up today. Some of the key takeaways I want everybody to walk away with is, what does flexible and scalable mean from a modular standpoint? We're going to look at cost effectiveness. How does a modular approach work into being cost effective compared to stick built, panel wall, things of that nature? The speed of construction, the quality and compliance, those real world applications, and then implementation and insights. That's really what we want you to take away today. Germfree. So Germfree has been in business for 61 years. So recently, over the past 2 years, Germfree has been making a bit of a transition into being owned by private equity. This was a family-owned and operated business prior. We have placed a large number of facilities across the globe. So Germfree is based in Ormond Beach, Florida, so Daytona Beach proper. We have a 175,000 square foot facility where we manufacture all of the mobile and modular facilities, all of our equipment as well. That's laminar flow hoods, BSCs, isolators, things of that nature are coming all out of that single facility. I am one of 3 employees that actually does not sit down in Daytona Beach. So in terms of our approach and kind of keeping everything as a family company, it still has that great family feel of everybody working together, collaborating together. We're starting to add people like me that are a little bit outside, just being based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But it is very exciting to see the growth that Germfree has had over the years, kind of the foundation on more of that biocontainment containment space. Actually, the boy in the bubble is where we got our start. Dr. Landy actually was trying to find a way to do a cleaner way of doing surgeries, and the boy in the bubble was where this was all started. So always a cool little story there of how Germfree was started. Now, in terms of what we look at ourselves as, we look at ourselves as being a complete solutions provider. So what that means is we're doing design, we're doing the engineering, we're doing the actual build of the facility, we're doing install, then we're doing the actual turnover and CQV of facilities as well. So we can work with you from a true design on a cocktail napkin to you have a schematic design, you're bringing it in, maybe you were working with a CRB or a Jacob, someone of that nature, and you need some more of a modular approach where you might have been looking at panel wall or stick built. So we are a true solutions provider for our customers. Now, looking at what our offerings are, those prefabricated modulars, it's going to be a lot of what we're going to dive into today. That's going to encompass anything from a grade B through D, an ISO 5 through 8, or 797, 800 applications. And then we do a lot in the biocontainment space as well. So anything from a BSL 3, even up to a 4 as well. We offer mobile offerings as well. On the mobile side, same applications, grade B through D, ISO 5 through 8. From the biocontainment side, we can only do up to a BSL 3 in those facilities. But then we also have our standard equipment and custom critical equipment as well. So not only are you able to buy standard offerings from Germfree, but we are a completely custom shop as well. Looking a lot on like the radiopharma side, lead lined. We've seen a big uptick in that with USP 825. So those are more of not a generic offering for us, but more of a custom offering. And same thing with isolators as well. We have a great partnership with AST, utilizing their fill finish equipment and our isolators. So we're building the isolators for them. And on the standard side, BSCs, RABs, laminar flow hoods, powder hoods, things of that nature, and your standard sizes for anything from utilizing in cGMP to utilizing in the pharmacy application or just general hospital or general lab use as well. As I stated, Germfree is a company that is doing business across the globe, and this is a great illustration to show you that. I would like to say that domestic is pretty easy for us, even though everything is coming out of Daytona Beach. We have done a ton of projects across the globe: Sub-Saharan Africa, Northern Canada, Singapore, Australia, Taiwan. We have a great global footprint, especially on our biocontainment side. We also get a lot of fun projects that on the biocontainment side, especially for more government projects, things of that nature that might be a little quirky, a little weird. Someone really might not know the best application. They typically come to Germfree, which is great to have that background for us. And I think it bleeds very well over into cGMP and into pharmacy as well. If you can do biocontainment, you're doing a BSL-4 facility, cGMP is a great next step. And that's actually where we kind of started, was more on the biocontainment side, and then moving over into cGMP over the past 10 to 15 years that we've had some various applications. All right, so understanding cleanroom. What is a cleanroom? Who does what in it? I always have the fun conversation of, what do you do for work? Well, I build cleanrooms. What is that? So by definition, I'm not going to go ahead and read this. I'm sure everybody can, but from a general clean room standard, it's basically what we're looking at whenever you're developing a clean room. You're looking for a room that is going to eliminate any contamination to a finished product, personnel, or anything that is going to be a finished good. Now, when we're looking at different applications of who's utilizing a clean room, you have semiconductor assembly, biotech, pharmaceutical, aerospace, food, medical device, and hospitals. So it kind of covers a wide gambit of people that are going to be utilizing clean rooms. It could be someone that is developing a new cell and gene therapy, someone that is doing just general lab work, maybe some analytical testing, all the way to semiconductor assembly. For Germfree, we focus mainly on biopharma, biocontainment, and pharmacy and hospital. Those are our big areas that we mainly focus on, and most of our applications are going into. We haven't done many on the med tech side and really even on the semiconductor side, but there are various applications that you can have, from stick-built, panel wall, modular, mobile, for all of these classifications. Also put in some of the clean rooms and classifications that you'll typically see when you're utilizing a build process or even doing your initial research on a clean room itself. You're going to see FDA standards, ISO standards, EU standards. There's a number of different standards. They all kind of have some crossover here or there, but really at the end of the day, it's looking at the particulate size that's going to be in that clean room. How clean does that room need to be for your process? On the biocontainment side, you don't want anything to escape that lab, so there's various protocols in place to make sure that whatever agents you're working with is staying contained within that facility. So lots of different applications. Like I said, I'm not going to read the actual definition. Please take that down as a note if you would like. But looking into understanding the importance of clean rooms and why do we need a clean room? At the end of the day, it's we've broken it down in these various kind of layers. So contamination control, that's one of the biggest issues that you typically have in a clean room, and it's one of the big things that you need to have SOPs developed around and finding the best approach. So having the environmental controls, kind of what that looks like, air filtration, making sure that you're keeping that environment in the best possible shape you can with your processes, cleaning protocols, and depending on what your application is, will depend on how you need to build those out. Now, looking at the product safety. So this goes into a number of different applications. When we're talking about a clean room and product safety, this could be a medical device, this could be an injectable drug, this can be a number of different things, even an oral or a topical medicine that is going to be involved in any kind of patient care. The last thing you want to have is something injected into someone that is contaminated. That can lead to death, that can lead to serious injury for that patient. So this is a huge portion of what we do and why you're actually operating in the clean room in the first place. Preventing contamination is critical in products. There is no room for failure on that because it can impact the patient in some way or another. And it's also looking at the sterility in the medical pharmaceutical products as well. How is that sterility of that product that's about to be injected into that patient? What does that look like? And we have regulatory and compliance as well. We have to meet industry standards. That's built around how effective are your SOPs, how effective is the facility that you're building as well. The last thing you want to do is invest all of the time and money into a facility and it fail, or you have an issue with maintaining air changes, you can't maintain negative or positive pressure. So maintaining the regulatory compliance helps meet all of those standards. Again, looking at FDA, EMA, and ISO as well as great places to start from doing documentation and looking at regulatory bodies and what that means. Product quality assurance, that comes back into that product safety as well. You have to QA a product before it's released. So doing that in the clean room environment, producing it in a sterile environment, in that clean environment, and then moving it out to the quality assurance standpoint, that's consistent product in production environment. You have to maintain the consistency of your environment, making sure that your material process is key, and your personnel process is key. How does that flow throughout your facility, and what does that look like? And then also, you want to be enhancing the longevity and the performance of your facility, but also for the product itself. And product QA is a huge portion of that. Looking at maximizing product waste as well. You don't want to maximize. You want to minimize as much product waste as you can. So reducing defective products is a huge key to that. And then also looking at what your process is. There's a lot of single-use technologies coming out now as well that are vital to that process. But at the end of the day, you want to minimize, not maximize, how much product waste that you have going on in your facility. And then production and personnel and environment. Safety for workers is huge. Looking at USP 800 as a prime example, that is not to protect the patient. That is specific for compounding hazardous drugs. That is to protect the operator, the tech that's in there actually doing the work itself. And then looking at your environmental safety as well. Cleanrooms really often prevent the release of contaminants into the environment. That's a big quality issue that some people have had in the past with things being released from an environment or brought into the environment. At the end of the day, the dirtiest thing that can walk into a clean room is us. It's the personnel. It's people coming and going. So having SOPs in place that are going to help alleviate that are key. So now we're actually going to dive into a video. So this is going to be a nice overview of Germfree and our modular approach.
A modular facility enables organizations to easily scale their operations and effectively serve patients. Germfree manufactures modular facilities that are designed to meet the specific needs of each organization and can be quickly installed and commissioned. By providing flexible modular solutions, we can help organizations stay ahead of demand and quickly respond to changing needs. Germfree's modular facilities are built using a parallel and integrated construction model, allowing our internal process application experts, CQV installation, quality control, and engineering teams to work in parallel from conceptual design to installation. This is how Germfree consistently delivers modular facilities to the biopharma, biocontainment, and healthcare markets that meet niche end-user processes and regulatory requirements while keeping site requirements at a minimum. We document and record rigging and shipping process of each mod, including verification of dunnage, placement, and fitment of the load into each truck. Our complete modules can weigh 40,000 pounds when fully equipped. Germfree healthcare facilities provide an aseptic environment, and our 100% stainless steel pharmacy equipment line protects your personnel and materials. Serving applications across a biocontainment space, Germfree manufactures module laboratories ranging from BSL2s, BSL3s, ABSL3s, and BSL4s that can be deployed anywhere in the world on an accelerated timeline. Our cGMP module cleanroom facilities are a genuine turnkey platform solutions that enables both cGMP and cGMP BSL2 production. When it comes to the designing and construction of a cleanroom, there are varieties of options available, each with their own pros and cons. The four most common construction methods are stick-built, modular panels, prefabricated modules, and mobile cleanrooms on wheels. The choice of construction method will depend on various factors, including application, environment, budget, project complexity, and timeline. Unlock your scientific potential with Germfree end-to-end solutions.
All right. Hope everybody enjoyed the video. Nice break for me talking as well. So jumping into modulars, kind of an overview. What does this look like? Currently right now in the market, you have a lot of different approaches to clean room space. You have more of a pre-built modular, which is what we're talking about mainly today. You have on-site build, or more of a stick-built operation, and then you have panel wall. Those are like the main big opportunities that you have for building clean rooms currently today. Now on the pre-built side, that is typically an off-site construction. What we mean by pre-built is so at Germfree, we're actually building your entire lab space. If it's a single suite or if it's 6,000 square feet of lab space in various grades, if we're talking about a grade B/C environment, or an ISO 5, maybe an ISO 6, an ISO 7, even an ISO 8. So we're building all of that space actually at our location. So before it ever even leaves our facility, we're entering all of the HVAC, we're doing all the plumbing, we're doing all the electrical, we're making sure that it is a quote unquote plug and play option for any one of our customers across the board. Now, whenever we do a pre-built, we are doing more of a factory acceptance test before it ever leaves our facility as well. So what that means is that your team would actually come down, they would evaluate the facility, make sure that everything is working properly. We're getting the air changes that we want. It's maintaining pressure. If we're doing a biocontainment facility, we're going to do pressure decay there on site as well. So all of these things are done before it ever even leaves your facility. Now, the benefit of that is you're able to actually continue your site prep. If you're building a shell building, you're renovating a site, whatever that is, we can be building your facility as you're doing that as well. So it's more working in tandem, which is really where you get that speed from with a more pre-built option. Now, on-site build, typical stick built, that's been what has started clean rooms, and there are many different applications on that side of things. People are doing PVC walls, they could be doing epoxy painted drywall, they could be doing a lot of different things for a more stick built lab. Now that can be something that is extremely small scale or large scale, but typically with that you are working with a general contractor or a GC. That GC is going to be tracking down the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrician, and then probably working in tandem with another lab supplier as well for any of the pieces of equipment that are going to be placed in that facility also. So it's more working with the GC. It does typically extend your timeline. Price points tend to be a little bit lower on the stick-built side, but then as you add in all those different layers, you get that true scope of what that project's going to be. We're pre-built, we're more doing everything on our side, and then bringing it to you, doing all the connection points, and getting your facility up and running. So again, that's speed there. And panel wall is a little bit of stick-built, a little bit of pre-built. So actually your clean room is going to be coming in sections, and they'll erect those sections, either hanging them from the ceiling, hanging them on studded walls. There's actually flooring as well that can be laid as well, where they can connect these the panel wall applications. So a lot of different options out there. Panel wall is kind of a little bit of that mix of, like I said, GC work, panel wall provider. You typically would be working with someone of like a Whiting Turner that can do some of these applications, or even like a PCI is another vendor out there that we know has done some great installations on the panel wall side that acts as the true builder of your facility. So lots of different applications, but whenever it comes to what we're specializing in on the modular side, that's more of that pre-built application. So whenever you're looking at a modular clean room, and like what are some of the components and materials that you will typically see? There's a couple other vendors out there that are doing modular that are mainly utilizing panels. What we do at Germfree is we actually are utilizing Arcoplast. Arcoplast is a very thick, very sturdy, so sturdy that we actually test our customers to come in and go ahead, hit it with a hammer to see how durable it is. Now that is something that we utilize in our biocontainment facilities. We're utilizing it in our pharmacy and cGMP. So in terms of fit and finish, what you're getting from Germfree is an Arcoplast solution for your walls. Monolithic gel coat, holds up very well to VHP, a lot of those corrosive cleaning agents. The walls actually do not yellow over time as well, which is a great feature. You know, whenever you do something with Arcoplast or something with a very sturdy material, you're getting something that's built to last. Another key factor of modular, this accounts for Germfree and a couple others as well, is having a walkable ceiling or a walkable mezzanine space. That's where you can put your utilities, you can change out FFUs. It gives you access to your facility from top down. So we've actually integrated full mezzanine spaces for some of our builds. For others, we have not. It really just depends on what kind of space we have that this is going into. So from a existing structure standpoint, well, what you're typically looking at is something that is pre-built. So you're looking at an already erected facility. It could be something that is multiple stories. It could be a shell building. These actually can sit exterior as well. So another application that Germfree is known for is actually putting our facilities exterior. So these can sit out in the elements as well. In terms of flooring options, you typically will see heat-sealed vinyl. We do epoxy as well. Especially in our mobile units, we use the heat-sealed vinyl flooring. Epoxy and going down the road and bumps and things of that nature don't hold up very well. Arcoplast does. That's exactly why we went with it. And we actually spent a lot of time on our R&D with doing a lot of military applications for our first couple of facilities and let them beat the crap out of it. Like, they beat those facilities up. We found out what worked, what didn't, what held up very well over time, to the point that they stopped breaking it. And we went, okay, this is our solution. But in terms of other modular companies that are out there, like I said, it could be a conjunction of panel wall, maybe a similar Arcoplast system, but using something that is pre-built. And some other components that you would typically see on the Germfree side, especially, we're utilizing FFUs to achieve our air. You'll have the low wall returns. We can integrate with any process gases, VHP systems. If you're doing cell and gene, you need LN2. All of those things can be provided within that facility. Now, in terms of the general overview and what we're looking at from a total materials and what you're looking at whenever you're doing a true modular design. So looking at the design itself, interchangeability of components is huge for modulars. We're looking at standardizing parts as well. So there are standard options and there are completely custom options. We have standard designs that we typically go off of, or we have bases of design that we have from previous projects that help with new projects. Like I said, we've dealt with some customers where our first iteration of their facility was done on a cocktail napkin. But we've dealt with some where they're actually bringing us a design from like a CRB or a Jacobs and asking us to modularize it, or Germfree it, as we like to call it. But also looking at the scalability of your facility. Whenever you're looking at modular, think about scaling up. We work with a lot of customers that are getting into preclinical, their phase 1 of their clinical trial. They need a set space for that. As they go into phase 2, phase 3, and full commercialization, the nice approach with modular is you can bring additional space over time. So if you have a shell building and you need us to bring an extra 1,200 square feet to get you to that phase 3 and that full commercialization, we can do that over time. So you can bolt on to existing structures. If you have you already have maybe a stick-built facility, this can be utilized as additional space on top of that. Looking at the quick installation and reconfiguration as well, whenever you're looking at the faster setup with a modular approach, gives you a great speed to market. Whenever you're looking at a modular approach, and like I said, you're doing more of that site work, that site prep, we're working on your facility, working in conjunction together to give you the best approach. Now, also looking at minimal downtime. One thing with that speed helps you with downtime. If you're outfitting a current existing facility, what do you do with that downtime? Are you going to go to a CDMO to help you? Do you have existing space elsewhere that you can utilize? Another thing that we typically do on Germfree is we will do a modular build in conjunction with a mobile application. So you can actually work in our mobile, continue your PD work or your actual process itself in a mobile facility while we're building out your long-term facility as well. Cost effectiveness, you have to look at the reduced construction cost. That time savings is reducing those construction hours at the end of the day. Is modular typically the cheapest approach? It is not. However, you have to think about everything that's going into it. You're utilizing HVAC, plumbing, electrical, process gases, all those things are being utilized into that facility. So you have that plug and play option instead of doing a traditional construction process of building the facility, now HVAC, now plumbing, now electrical, now process gas. You're doing all those things at the same time rather than in phases, eating up more of that construction budget and adding that time there. Another huge thing is the customization. So whenever you're looking at a modular build, they are extremely customizable. We do have preset options, but they can be very custom at the end of the day. If you need a higher ceiling for bioreactors, we've done that. We can actually call it a high hat. We're almost stacking a half of a modular on top of another modular to give you a higher ceiling height. Really, at the end of the day, whatever you need, whatever your facility need is, we can achieve it in a modular platform. Really, whenever you're looking at tailoring that to your specific needs, if it's a mix of biocontainment and cGMP as well. We've actually done a BSL-3 and cGMP manufacturing facility, utilizing a number of isolators throughout that facility. But we were able to achieve that. We're seeing those lines be blurred a lot these days, where you're getting a little bit of cGMP, you're getting a little bit of pharmacy, you're getting a little bit of biocontainment. So we're able to achieve all of those in a modular setting. And then one of the really cool things about modular is making them so they're relocatable. That is something we can do, we have done, and we continue to do. We're actually just wrapping up a project in Singapore where we actually moved the BSL-3 facility from one side of Singapore to the other side of Singapore. Our team that went and did the install about 10 years ago is now back there decommissioning, disassembling, repacking, and then moving it and then reassembling. Obviously, a lot of things to be upgraded in 10 years. But our team was actually out there doing that for our customers. We've moved quite a few of our single modulars around to various like Chevron, people of that nature in the oil and gas industry as well for more on-site testing. So that is a nice option that you have with modular. You know, almost look at it as a piece of capital. You know, the depreciation value was something that you can take with you as you move out of a facility or go to your next home. It can go with you. There is some costs obviously associated with that and kind of some checks and balances. And we typically help our customers understand what that cost would look like, how much goes into relocating a project. But that is something that you can do with a modular approach as well. Now, looking at, the time, maintenance, and flexibility of a modular clean room. What does that mean? Time. We talked a lot about the speed to market, getting it up and running. You have to look at whenever you're looking at time, the time spent with you and your team and the construction manager and the A&E, if you're working with an architecture engineering firm, all of that is time and money. So whenever you're doing a modular approach, again, it's that speed, getting it up and running quicker, more of that plug and play option. On the maintenance side, typically what we're trying to do is simplify maintenance with modulars. It can be easily replaced. A lot of the FFUs and a lot of those components, we have more accessibility to them over stick built. Again, depending on your construction method and what you're looking at, we typically see that maintenance being a lot easier. And here at Germfree, we actually do offer maintenance packages as well. So going back to that being a true solutions provider for our customers, we do have a complete service and maintenance team as well. That will be on site to help with changing anything out, anything that is broken. We do remote monitoring. We can be tied into the EMS, BMS system as well and monitor that for our customers. So that way we're getting ahead of it rather than behind it. If there is an issue, something goes down, we're jumping on that to help service our customers. We typically see those maintenance packages being purchased by smaller organizations, government agencies. Typically, your larger pharmas are going to have a full team around that where we're doing a hands-off approach there. Always there to help service, and that goes from modular, mobile, and our equipment as well. And then the flexibility, that customization, how custom can you get? If you need a 14 by 56 foot single modular, we can do that. If you want us to add on a 10 by 10 on top of that, we can do that. So it's, again, being flexible and scalable are huge whenever it comes to modular. Giving you that bolt-on space is really key. Talking more about that speed of construction, what does that mean? What does that time look like? And whenever we're looking at how we break down our business process from a modular provider versus those atypical construction methods, Now, this is a great graph to kind of show that, we're doing design, fabrication, and CQV along that entire life cycle to get you process ready faster, rather than breaking that off in chunks. We have the faster installation and setup. We're with the prefabrication. The quick assembly, we're typically on site, depending on size and scope, for a shorter time period than someone that is doing a panel wall installation. Again, size and scope does play a factor there, but we're typically seeing faster installation and setup. Also, reduction in downtime. We talked about that a little bit already, but we're trying to be minimal on disruptions to your current process, your current facility. Doing something that is bolt on or can be sitting exterior. All of these are options that you have with a modular approach. And simplifying the permitting and compliance. We're really trying to give you standardization around that. We're trying to give you something that is going to be a standard design that is going to meet regulatory requirements, streamline the permitting process as well, and speed up the approval timelines. That's what we're trying to give you, is that best solution to eat up some of that permitting process. At the end of the day, it's not a fun process for anybody, but if we can help simplify that, we're going to. Also looking at lead times. Lead times have been an issue for our industry, I would say probably post-COVID, and everybody's felt it in some way or another. With a prefabricated design, we're typically pulling something off the floor. We typically have things completed in various stages as well, especially on our mobile offering, where it's getting you up and running quicker. But from a modular approach, whenever you're looking at that lead time, we have efficient and sufficient supply chain needs. We have great vendors that we work with, that we've actually procured a lot of material that actually is already sitting on site. Again, getting you to that speed and to that getting up and running faster. You also have to look at the lower labor requirements and kind of what that looks like from labor on your facility. Less on-site labor with a prefabricated approach or a modular approach is key there. And then, improving project management, simplifying coordination. I think we have a fantastic PM team here. There's other vendors out there as well that we've worked with, like PM Group and people of that nature, that we try to make the project management side of this as simplified and as easy as possible. And I think with looking at that approach and that modular approach, fewer subcontractors. We're still working with the site GC that's doing all of the site prep and things of that nature. But again, it's everybody that comes after your facility is built. It typically adds on that time. The last thing you want to be waiting on is your HVAC guy, your electrician, whoever that might be working on your facility, and they're delayed with another job that they might have. So then your build's delayed. So this kind of helps eat up some of that time. So benefits of modular clean rooms, we're looking at more the quality and compliance aspect here. Flexibility and scalability, key. That cost effectiveness, key. Speed of construction, another key. You're going to get sick of me saying key. Quality and compliance, another key. These are the 4 pillars of what you're looking at from a compliant facility, but also a quality facility. Whenever we're talking about quality and compliance, the last thing you want is to be worried about a facility that you've built. With a modular approach, you have to think about the site acceptance test that's happening, that peace of mind. This facility is going to work whenever it gets here. We're then doing the installation. We're then doing we do the factory acceptance test and then the site acceptance test. So we're doing all of these things to make sure your facility is up and running as fast as possible, but as efficient as possible as well. Looking at how your facility is going to run and over time as well. From a modular approach, you're getting that peace of mind whenever you're looking at your quality and compliance aspects of your facility. I'll give you a couple real world examples here of some projects that we've actually done. So looking at a facility that was about 6,000 square feet, this was actually for a CDMO that we did in Boston. That facility was integrated with a kind of a hodgepodge of different approaches. It was a germ-free solution. They actually had another solution in there, and it was a little bit of stick build as well. So it really was in conjunction with a number of different aspects. But that facility was doing fill finish. This is actually one of the facilities that we did more of that quote unquote high hat. We actually we made a higher ceiling in that facility for the bioreactors that were going into it. So that is something where this facility was already existing. It was not a shell building. We actually had to remove a wall section to get the modulars in. So it was a very in-depth conjunction with us working with the site GC and our team and having that cohesive front of all working together to get this company up and running as fast as possible. They needed additional space. They were taking on more and more customers. This is where that scalability came into effect. We helped them be flexible, fast, and scalable all at the same time. Looking at another approach, this was a really interesting one that we did. And this was actually an award-winning facility for us. So this was an ENR, we won the award for the ENR for manufacturing. So this was actually at NIH Building 10 on the roof of Building 10. So this was their tumor infiltrating lymphocyte facility, and this was a cGMP modular facility. This was around 6,500 square feet of total space. We had a walkable mezzanine for this build, a number of different modulars. So this was actually 10 prefabricated modulars that went into this build. So that very scalable approach again, not just a single modular. Often we get, whenever you're talking about modular, you think, oh, it's just a box. We're tying multiple boxes together, gasketing them together as well to give you the best application for your available space. Now, going on the roof of a facility, is that typical for us? No, it's not. If you were around the NIH facility during that time, you're seeing modulars literally fly through the air as we're craning them up onto the building for our team to install. So these are real life projects that we've done, roughly around the same square footage in terms of size and scope, but we can't do a single modular. We can do 10 modulars, we can do 20 modulars. Really just depends on what's the best approach for your space and need. And really, whenever we're looking at personnel flow and product flow, how can we help you utilize the best space for the time and for the money? Looking at the planning and design of a facility, this is some of the biggest things whenever you're doing those first steps. Looking at the timeline of your build, that's really the step one. Like I said, cocktail napkin or a true A&E spec that we're working off of, whatever that is, looking at the timeline. Okay, when do you need to be process ready? When do you need to be up and running and getting your facility certified, ready to go? Taking a look at those. You want to be making sure that you're considering that during the planning phase. So this is really that planning phase, getting an understanding of project timeline, project scope, budget as well is huge to be looked at for this. I always like to say, what is your budget? Let us reverse engineer this and give you the best solution based off your budget. The things that are kind of out of your control whenever you're doing a build process is additional time added, things of that nature. Going modular helps with that, where it's prefabricated. You have all the components inside in terms of your HVAC, your electrical, your plumbing, things of that nature. So from your budget standpoint, not looking at going GC, cost there, and then all of your other, your service personnel that would need to be there from HVAC, electrical, plumbing. Those are all things to keep in mind. And then, the functionality of the space. Okay, I need something that's going to be 6,500 square feet, and I have a 10,000 square foot total facility. How can we make this work? How are we going to get it in? Are we going to put it on the roof? Are we going to have to remove a wall section to slide these in? Do you have a large enough bay door? Can they sit exterior? What is the best approach for your space? We want to make sure that you're getting the functionality out of it, but understanding the purpose of that facility as well. That's a huge key. Are you doing cGMP? Are you doing some type of biocontainment? Are you doing a mix of that? Is this going for a pharmacy, a 503A or B that's doing 797, 800? These are all things to make sure that while you're going through your planning and design phase, you're thinking about all the additions and the subtractions. What are those detractors from doing it this way and doing that way? We call it kind of our roadmap, where we'll sit down with someone and really make sure that the modular approach is the best approach for them. Panel wall might be the better approach. or a stick-built might be the better approach. It depends on what that facility looks like and the available space and what they're trying to achieve with that space at the end of the day. And being customized as well is a huge thing with that process, and understanding what is the purpose for that facility. Do you need something that's out of the box ready to go, or do you need something that's customized, that we need to maybe make some cuts here, or we need to shrink a space here? You need a bigger corridor, you need a bigger mouths and pals. What does that look like? So some additional things to think about whenever you're looking at the installation and the maintenance of your modular facility, or any facility in general. You want to make sure that you're defining your requirements and standards. Are you doing this in an ISO 5 environment? Are you doing this in an ISO 6? Is this going to be more of the European grade system? Are we looking at a grade C into a D, or what is that approach going to be? And understanding those requirements is key, and making sure you're working with someone that does understand them as well. If that's an A&E, if that's the actual producer of your panel wall or modular approach, those are all key factors to make sure that you have dialed in. Now, whenever we're looking at like the design and considerations, you want to make sure your layout planning is correct, your zoning, and your materials and finishes. Those are 3 huge factors whenever you're looking at your design considerations as well. Zoning and permitting can be an issue for a lot of people. That takes a lot of time, depending on where you're located as well. What works best for the space that you have, like we talked about previously. Looking at HVAC and filtration systems, are we looking at, from an air handling standpoint, are we tying into an existing system, or are we going to have to bring an additional chiller or boiler for this modular approach? That is something we have done in the past. If we can tie into an existing facility, that is fantastic for us. And it helps eat up some of that cost as well. But does everybody have that availability in their HVACs and their boiler system? Can we get those processes to the modular to achieve what we're trying to achieve from an air change and things of that nature? Also looking at the filtration, are you using HEPAs or ULPAs? What does that look like for your facility? Also airflow patterns. This is important. Are you trying to achieve laminar airflow? It's critical in some areas to have this, but what is your planning? How are you looking at that? And also looking at, whenever you're looking at a facility and what is best, is modular always going to be the top premier option for every facility? No, it might be modular versus a conventional, or it might be a tie of a little bit of both. Utilities and service is huge. From a power supply standpoint, how are we hooking up these modulars? Is there enough power supply coming from the facility already that we can tie into? Or are we going to have to work in conjunction with an electrician to pull more power as well? That adds time and money to whatever you're looking at your facility. And also from that installation and maintenance standpoint, that might kick out the timeline if we need to add power. And then from a maintenance standpoint, making sure that your personnel on staff, or if it's a Germfree personnel as well that's there to help support, we want to make sure that we have that access to what is needed, and we have the appropriate connection points and the appropriate power supply. At the end of the day, you do not want a facility that's up and running. It's like, oh, we're going to do 200, 300 amp supply. This should be good. And then you add more pieces of equipment and you're not able to pull enough power for that facility. That can be a huge problem. You're looking at the validation and the testing of this facility as well. That is huge with installation and with the maintenance. We want to make sure that we're doing a performance qualification or PQ. We want to make sure that we're doing the environmental monitoring for that facility as well, and the certification. You can't utilize that for your process until it's certified. So understanding what that timeline looks like and who can help support. From an install standpoint on the Germfree side, whenever it comes to the validation and the testing, we're doing CQV. We've also worked in conjunction with others as well. If you need someone to come out and do your environmental monitoring, maybe your staff isn't up to date on it, needs to be trained on it, we have people across the US and the globe that can help support. We have partners that we work with on a number of different facets specifically to this. Training and documentation, as we're doing this turnover package, we're documenting everything that we've done on our side. But then also making sure that your team and your personnel is properly trained for all of that transition as well. The clean room commissioning is huge to get you up and running. But the other thing that's vital as well is the continue of ongoing maintenance and staying compliant with your facilities. SOPs, making sure people are coming in, checking that you're getting the air changes required from your EMS and your BMS system. Even down to who can access the clean room itself. These are all vital things to make sure that you're considering whenever you're looking at installation and maintenance and getting your facility up and running. All right, everybody. I think you've all heard me talk long enough now for today. So again, some of our key takeaways that we wanted you to walk away with today. We wanted to make sure that you understood, how is this flexible and scalable? What does that mean from a modular approach? Cost effectiveness, speed of construction, quality compliance, those real world applications. You saw a little bit of that in our video, and you got to see some of that with the 2 projects that we highlighted as well. And then implementation and insights. We want to make sure that you're thinking about this in the right capacity. We're here to help support you along the way. Again, trying to be the best solutions provider we can for our customers is key. And then we're also here to help you along the way. But I really appreciate everybody's time. We're actually going to open everything up to some questions now. So I'll start fielding some questions. Don't be too harsh on me at the end of the day. Done a lot of talking, but very excited to dive into some questions, hear what everybody's thinking after hearing everything we've had to say today. Again, I thank you all for your time, and we'll kick it off to some questions.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Stephen, for that great presentation filled with so much important information. We're now going to move on to the question and answer portion of the webinar. But if you haven't already and you'd like to, you can go ahead and send our speaker a question via the Q&A box. Also, we hope you'll take a moment to answer the questions to the right of your screen. We'd love to have your feedback. Right, on to the first question. Let's see here. We have Stephen ready to go. And the question coming in is asking, you mentioned relocation and scale benefits. Do you have experiences you can share of any multi-module configuration changes to improve personnel and material flow with multiple product lines in the same facility while expanding? Long question. Help us, Stephen?
Long question, but a great question. So I think case in point would be Vibalogix CDMO facility. They're now Resi Farm. They actually, I think, have changed hands again. Facility that we did in Boston. So that facility was CDMO. So they're doing multiple applications at scale. That facility is very interesting. It was actually one of our competitors, a mix of germ-free solution. They had some atypical stick built and panel wall. So that was kind of a hodgepodge of literally every application you can look at from a clean room standpoint. So whenever we looked at that solution, it was, how can we give them the best personnel and product flow? How can they utilize it for multiple applications as well, giving them full-scale fill-finish capabilities as well. So we were able to design and build that on top of what was already existing there in that facility, and then tying in with a competitor product as well. So from that application, we were able to, at scale, bring them additional solutions, but additional space, and for all of their applications that they had coming in the door, and for future ones as well. So they were building out more so what their need was now, but also for future applications also. So that's a prime example of a situation where we actually were supporting that exact application. And I can actually provide additional insight on that as well. I'll follow up here after the webinar as well to provide some additional details there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Stephen. So looking at the next question coming in, I believe from the same individual. He's asking, does Germfree typically perform IQ and OG of the clean room for their clients or typically hand it over at SAT?
Great question. So typically at SAT, we're doing the factory acceptance tests, or FAT, on our side at Germfree site, and then shipping it to the site. Our team is doing the install. We're doing the site acceptance test as well. If it's not in our scope, we will third party that out. It just depends on really the organization at the end of the day. If we're typically working with a large pharma, they typically like to run with that. On the flip side, we will typically run with that and just build that into our scope. Like, that's our typical process for us to have in our scope, FAT and SAT, working that in with CQV, On pieces of equipment and things of that nature, sometimes we'll take some of that into our scope, but typically we let that be on the back end on the customer side. But we always work with partners on that as well, depending on where the equipment's coming from. If it's germ-free equipment, 100% will be involved in that process if you'd like us to be. But if you have a team that's fully capable and would like to run with CQV, by all means, we will hand that over, and that will not be in our scope. So it's case by case.
Thank you. The next question is asking, do the cGMP modules also include CNC corridors for personnel flow, or should these be designed around the cGMP modules?
It's a great question. So typically we will design them into our space. It just depends on the application. And if you would like it to be more of a panel wall application or like a stick built, and we're meshing that in with the modular just the suite itself. So utilizing a modular as your actual suite that you're doing your science in, and CNC space is just adjacent to, and we're tying that together. So typically we'll design it as CNC is built into that space, but we can actually have it so we're just using the modular as a single platform for the actual real science is being done in that space.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next question would like to know, do you have a modular facility specific to a small cGMP aseptic fill finish facility that can support grade A and B environments? This will be for a startup facility. Funding not secured at this time. I'm just looking for preliminary data. Can you help us
Yes.
out?
Yes, 100%. So we've done a lot of work, especially on the grade scale, with looking at modulars from like a decentralized and point of care manufacturing. So kind of making them as lean and mean as possible. Think about the approach of dropping this outside of a hospital system if you're doing cell and gene therapy. Patient material into your space to actually do your manufacturing, even QCing it in that space, and then back into patient, right exterior of the hospital. So we do have a bunch of different platforms and layouts and preliminary, like quote unquote, standard designs that we have that can fit that need.
Okay, excellent. And this question is asking, based on the talk, it appears you have a turnkey solution to delivery of a modular facility. CVQ, EM, smoke studies, what levels of packages in terms of completeness of a facility do you offer?
So we truly are a quote unquote end-to-end solution. With our installation team, with our service team, all of the studies and data, all of that information that we can pass along on the back end, whenever you're getting your turnover documents, really you tell us exactly what you need. We'll go over, hey, this is what is in our scope. This is what you will see with your germ-free solution. And we have a full layout of everything that comes in with your FAT, your SAT, and really that line item will break all of that out. So if it is by some chance missing something that you would like to have in our scope that you don't want on your end or you don't want to third party, we will 100% take that on. It really just depends on what exactly that solution is and what kind of requirements we're working in. Is it cGMP? Is it biocontainment? What might that look like?
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And this next question I'm seeing down the line, what is the minimum square footage needed for the modular cGMP facility?
Ooh, that's a great question. So from like a minimum standpoint, we're very scalable. If you need a 10 by 10 solution, I would tell you probably go panel wall. At the end of the day, that's very small scale. Typically, we see that from some of our compounders and small mom and pop shops that are trying to get into 797 work that are at that small of scale. But really, at the end of the day, our standard size is about 14 by 56. Like that's our standard single modular unit. But we can scale that down. So depending on what you have ability for your space, if this is sitting interior versus exterior, and really how much square footage you need, and we typically base that off of your personnel flow and your product flow, and then also your pieces of equipment that are going into that space. So we'll typically ask for an equipment list. Based off that equipment list, we'll do a heat load study, make sure that, hey, from an electric standpoint, we have everything that's needed. We're able to get the air changes required for that space as well, with all the pieces of equipment in that facility as well. So we would kind of start there. And let's look at what you need from an equipment standpoint and kind of build it out from there. We can look at from our standard designs to our completely customized design as well.
I think we have time for one more question, and that's going to be, which code following for design Which code are you following for design clean room? Did I ask that correctly?
So by code, there's a lot of variability on code, so I'm not sure. I can definitely follow up with this person at the end and see what code they're referring to. If we're talking like a grade for cGMP manufacturing, like grade A, B, or C, or ISO, 5 through 8, whatever that might be, we're typically designing it based off what science is being performed in the facility itself. But I can follow up on that and grab some more details to give the appropriate answer.
Perfect. And just as a reminder to the rest of the audience that if we did not get to your question today during this webinar, no worries, we will be following up after the event. And speaking of that, we are out of time. So I want to say many thanks to our speaker, Stephen Ondek, for sharing his knowledge and time, and to you, the audience, for joining us today. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.